we have a way now. I'm not sure, Gavin, is that available right now, or is it at the end of the month or next month? So basically, we actually look at that QR code as we would a link and analyze it to see what it's actually doing. So again, you can't be compromised with it. And we'll quarantine it if it is or stop completely. Another one Gavin's going to talk about, and this is where Inbox Protect is really coming in now, is OneDrive exploits. So we've seen a huge rise in those. Because Microsoft itself trusts itself, and that's inherently dangerous. And so by having us there and having Inbox Protect, we're actually picking those up. So and it often happens, even those links when they're scanned going through by systems, they're often changed post delivery, say 10 minutes, an hour, a day later. And so our system as well will always check to make sure that the links are actually safe inside of them. So those redirects and triggers. And we've seen a lot more targeted attacks as well. And again, I'm going to come to that and how that's happening. And that's been seen in the marketplace. It's not just us. So much more sophisticated targeted attacks. They've done the research. They've gone out on say, some dark web and actually targeted people and actually got information on them and then do a very sophisticated attack into them. And we're seeing them being quite successful. And if you don't have the right education and the right systems in place, they can be quite effective with spear phishing. And they look very good. And then some of the behavior that's enabling these things to happen is, now, this room is very good because most of you are our customers and we've been talking this for a while. So I'd say I think 80% of people here are now probably DMARC compliant or on the way to be DMARC compliant. So well done, because you're in the minority. There's still less than 20% of organizations have actually even got a proper SPF PIN and even a DMARC record and a policy equals none. And what's that leaving? That's leaving them open to huge risk from both the spear phishing and whaling stuff we talked about a minute ago, but also from impersonator fraud, reputational damage, their domain being spoofed, all that kind of stuff. And people are going to have to do something about it because, as you know, Google, they rolled back a little bit on it. They didn't fully implement it, but like in February, they've actually said everyone has to have a DMARC record, an SPF and DMARC record, but you don't have to be able to reject. It's policy equals none, which is like saying you have to buy a lock, but you don't have to lock it. So I don't quite see the point. I suppose it's bringing people on a journey, and so it's baby steps. And I'm sure they put another deadline in maybe 6 months or a year's time to actually say, right now you have to be a policy equals reject. But they reckon once they fully go down the policy equals reject route, that will take 70% of the traffic off their network. So that's how much crap is out there. And that's obviously great for you guys too. It cuts down on all the threats out there. It cuts down on, even I know bandwidth and storage isn't that big an issue anymore, but still, if 70% of the traffic is rubbish coming through your network, it's great if that's all gone. And we believe Microsoft eventually, if they're embarrassing again, are actually looking at doing this as well properly and actually starting to implement this. And that will change everything. And then everyone will have to be DMARC compliant. You won't have a choice. So it's good to get in there now. There's benefits. And if any of you are outbound kind of organizations who send lots of emails, you can, once you get DMARC compliancy, you can go down the Bing route, which allows you to put your brand, your logo, actually beside the actual email when people are looking at it on their device. And apparently that drives up engagement massively. People like Tesco and Domino's Pizza have seen a 30% increase in engagement by actually displaying that logo there. And also deliverability rates will go up even higher because you have to go and get that from a trusted source, that certified logo attached to the actual to the domain. Now you have to be a policy equals reject to do the bidding stuff, but I'd recommend anyone who's doing all of that building stuff to do that as well, and we can help you with that. We've seen that a lot of people are doing security awareness training for the sake of doing security awareness training, and they're not actually really trying to change behavior. And so what that means is really like they're getting a tick box for their cyber insurance, for their cyber audits, etc. But they're not actually changing behavior. And that again, people are still clicking on links, people are still engaging with attachments, content, and all that kind of stuff, despite all the training. So that isn't working. Also, just amongst yourselves, I mean, too many people have access to admin, like admin rights. And as I'm going to come up later, as to who's being targeted. Actually, IT people are now actually being targeted more than they used to be because the access to actual data and be able to do things on the network compared to, say, compromising someone for marketing. So that's a big issue too. Supply chain compromise. So again, a lot of you in here are very good at securing your own network, but you're only as strong as your weakest link. And I was talking to Bill about it yesterday. There's a lot of, even like, there was one example of a I suppose someone mentioned about a submarine base last year in the UK. Fantastic security and everything else, but they were compromised by one of their supply chain engineering companies, contractors, and they got in that way. And so you're only as strong as your weakest link. And so monitoring who people you do business with, how effective is their security, and there's ways of actually doing that. And we've actually got something ourselves that we've introduced to help with that. And working from home, the hybrid thing, it's interesting. It has changed people's behaviour, and they're not quite as alert to security risks as they would be in the office. So you're in the office and an email comes in saying simulated phishing attack or a real phishing email, and people would like turn around and say, "Did you get that email? Or did you see that?" Whereas when you're at home, you've no one, like, you don't have that kind of informal kind of chat look around the office. The tea room stuff. Did anyone see that thing today? And I think that's actually also kind of people's guard is down. And even still, a lot of people working from home aren't on VPNs still. And a lot of them are, but a lot of them aren't, or on secure networks or even secure devices. So again, that's still creating issues. It's not as big an issue as it was a couple of years ago, but it's still an issue out there, and we're still seeing that as a way people are getting compromised. And again, back to you guys. You've got so much stuff going on. The IT guys are getting burned because you've got so many alerts, so many dashboards, so many things. You don't know what's actually real and what's not. There's so many false positives popping up. And that's making your life much harder. So we're seeing that as a real kind of inhibitor to actually spotting the real threats, because you guys are just seeing so many threats from everywhere all at one time. And then from just outside, from, like I said, from other studies, they were saying the same thing. So the impact of remote work on email security, it's not just us seeing this. We've seen this from Gartner, Scott, Verizon mentioned it as well, that people are not paying the same kind of rigor to security when they're at home as they are in the office. Amazingly and honestly, Microsoft themselves said just having 365, even if you're identified, isn't enough. If someone wants to get through there, they will. And one of their engineers, the top engineers, in their engineer report said, look, their security is actually the way to go. If you want to actually protect, and we see that with our Inbox Protect product. We do free trials of that now, and it will always pick up stuff. We stick it in, it takes 5 minutes to set up, and if someone's just using 365, it'll start to pick up stuff straight away. Like there was one of them, I think they picked up 3 Trojans in one day. The first day it was active, one of our customers, we can put it on, And getting back to the targeting and the spear phishing and whaling, the bad actors are actually going out and, say if they know the executive team or say people in procurement or finance, they're actually looking for them on the dark web to see, okay, have they used their work credentials somewhere else? And unfortunately, if any of you guys are customers of a breach detect service, probably your users are using their work credentials in non-work related sites like booking.com, LinkedIn, even Paddy Power, all sorts of dating sites, all sorts of things, So, and those sites are targets for the hackers, so they're getting compromised, and they're using that information to actually do really good spear phishing attacks into the organizations. And again, they basically were saying training needs to be better and more measured. It's not good enough really just to be doing the tick boxing exercise of, yes, we've done 2 phishing attacks this year, everyone's done a training course, and we're good. You have to be looking at ways of changing behavior. And again, we could talk to Dowd about that. We've got ways of doing that, and we do it all as a managed service to tailor it. And that's one of the best ways of actually making it effective. So we also looked at who are they actually targeting, and it's not rocket science, new staff. And it's interesting, they're using LinkedIn as well to see, especially senior people actually moving around. So they see someone moving into a new organization, and they know that we don't know the procedures and all that kind of stuff. So they actually will target them. And of course, some of the new staff are fantastic. They put their badge on the table, they put their laptop, they put all the welcome gifts, and take a picture of it. And sometimes they even have the actual, like, their ID and everything actually in that picture on LinkedIn. Like, it's very helpful for the scammers. So, we'd recommend you're doing training with all new staff on all your cybersecurity policies in the first week. Obviously, senior staff, like the exec team, you, as I mentioned, the IT professionals, because of your admin access to things, you can get around the network. And also because you're busy, you're more likely to click on something than someone else because you're doing a million things and you do it on your phone, or you're expecting that from somebody. Oh yeah, I'll just authorize that, and bang, someone's in. Finance procurement, not a shock. But also, I was surprised about HR. But again, somebody explained to me that. Okay, so I'm really not that interesting. Steady. Yeah. Need to tighten that up. But obviously, there's a huge amount of personal data about people. So again, people are harvesting that from the HR systems and bank details and all the rest of it. So it's interesting. Like, the other thing that kind of drives me mad is that Microsoft seems to be the answer to every question. And I'm not bashing Microsoft here, but because we use Microsoft ourselves and it's a great product. And but it's not the answer to every question, and they get compromised quite regularly. This was from actually from Allianz, the big insurance guys, and they're actually looking at risk, and they said cyber incidents are the most important now risk facing business, way ahead of climate change, labor, recession, all these things. It's cyber threats that they're seeing as the biggest risk. But I don't think that's been reflected at the board table. Especially when it comes to investment and the spend on security, and especially around email. And ransomware attacks, again, I'm from this area. It used to be about encrypting and then like asking you for money, but now more and more it's about data exposure and threatening to actually expose data straight away unless they pay the ransom. So it's going to change the approach, and obviously AI, all the deepfake stuff is actually terrifying, and actually Bill has some great examples in his presentation about some, and someone else mentioned that I think actually one of the exploits and one of the successful scams that was done in Hong Kong with a deepfake video in real time, which is astounding, and like the quality is so good. This is something I thought would pop up because again, I don't think people think about the impact of actually being hit by a ransomware attack. Obviously, you lose data, that's obvious, but this is from a UK think tank. And there's a huge impact on the staff as well. So if you've been in an organization that's been part of a ransomware incident, like people have had heart attacks, people have died, people have had strokes, people do genuinely have PTSD from the trauma of going through those weeks. If any of you've done it, you probably got the teacher, you're nodding away there. It's a horrific experience, but it's also worrying for kind of they're the first order harms. Obviously, losing the data, organizations been in trouble, staff traumatized and obviously work. But then there's the downstream stuff where your customers are wary of you because you've been compromised, and if those threats then actually go into their businesses, like the supply chain threats, you're going to be in trouble. People lose confidence, individuals themselves, in actually using your product and using the service, and society in general, the third order harms. Don't trust, like banks don't trust revenue. Won't go there. But like they lose trust in people who are looking after their data and are now reluctant to engage and actually share data. So there's a lot more kind of repercussions when you get hit by a ransomware attack than actually just the loss of data or having to pay a ransom. It goes right through the whole organization and to customers as well. So, what have we done about it? So, again, most of you guys are doing this. So I think in this room, nearly 80% have done DMAR, and that's really good. If the rest of you haven't, either do it yourselves or talk to Tim and his team, and they'll get you compliant, because that is going to happen, and it's such a quick win, and it stops so much stuff. It's really worth doing. We have a new file exchange. Again, talk to Gavin about that. It integrates with Outlook. So again, if encryption, safe sending, managing of large files, like managing of large and secure files, again, that's something that's a really good and easy to use service now integrated to the Outlook console. Our security awareness training, talk to Dale about that. He's got some demos. about how we tailor the phishing to really kind of, understand how people are thinking and then take them on a journey. We can actually bring them on training courses at the point of compromise. And actually make sure that it has a value. And we also have, if you want to go further, nudge-based training, which is all about monitoring behavior and driving behavior, not just around email. So, like people are saving documents onto their hard drive rather than in one SharePoint or OneDrive that they're supposed to. Actually, having a prompt up and saying, "Are you sure you want to do that?" Or sending like a sensitive document to a Gmail address or downloading something from the web onto their desktop, prompting them before they actually do it. Are you sure you want to do this? And obviously you don't have that coming up all the time, but because I think they can do otherwise if there was a pop-up every time they try to do something. But you can have it maybe 3 times a day. A pop-up appears. The rest of the time you're just recording that they're doing it. So you start to understand what kind of behavior the users are doing, and then you can engage with them and actually try and change that behavior again through that tool. I think it's a fantastic way of doing it. I think it's the only way really of actually driving behavioral change. I will talk about our gateway email security product because you know that well. And again, you can talk to Tim and Gavin about that if you want to go into more detail. Inbox Protect is a game changer for us in regards to how easy it is to deploy and the way it stops a lot of these URL-based attacks. The way it actually can do the zero-day stuff as well, which you can't do with a gateway product, and also do internal mail, which we're seeing. I think Verizon said something like 39% of all exploits last year actually started internally rather than externally. And not always malicious, but like inadvertently sharing links that they've done for the web or something else. And again, not many people are actually monitoring for that internally. And like I say, if they're SharePoint links or something, Microsoft are not looking at them properly. So again, having something else like yourselves looking at it is imperative. Archiving is something like we're seeing is from a compliance perspective. One more organization, no one likes archiving, but it's something you have to have. So again, we're actually rolling that out across the board as standard with our solution. So to renewals and stuff with Jared, we've been given that free for a year just to get people on board because people need to be doing it. And again, Microsoft will say themselves that they're not responsible for your data, and if it's gone, it's gone. And so, and backups maybe aren't always enough because again, if you have to do evidential quality in court cases, having a tamper-proof archive is the way to go. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is breach detect. And this is looking at your users misusing their data outside of the organization. So you can't see it. So you haven't been breached yourself. So it's not you being breached, but they've exposed you to risk because they're using it in LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever, X, whatever it's called now. And those sites are being compromised. And what we do is we give you all the data on the historical exploits, like how they were compromised, when they were compromised, what data was compromised. But also more importantly, we monitor it going forward, future compromises. So if Joe accounts gets compromised tomorrow, we'll tell you immediately and in real time. And also you can monitor your supply chain. We're doing this a lot now for companies. So they'll give us a list of all the top 20 suppliers or people they do business with, and we'll monitor those. Now, we, for GDPR reasons, obviously, we can't know the individuals involved. We can tell that organization, listen, anyone who's dealing with them, just be extra careful from emails from them. If you've got a really good relationship with that organization, you can actually ring them up and say, look, is anyone that we deal with part of that exploit that just happened? And again, that's useful. So it just gives you visibility outside your own domain. And I think, to be honest, I think it's invaluable. So that is me.
Yeah. I'll hand over now to Bill McCluggage from Lagan View. Sit back and relax, folks. This is very, very good. And as I said, we have some special guests who are going to appear. I'll be on to Bill. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks very much. Talking about geriatrics with Tim and Fred. Don't be referring to me, are you? Anyway, welcome, and it's glad to be here. Lagan View is my personal company. Where I left the CIO role here in in Ireland, I set up my own small business just to go out and do some consulting work. How many of you have played with Gen AI? Just a show of hands. How many of you have actually played with Gen AI? Actually, that's a little bit more than the norm. I think about 14% of businesses have actually had people playing with Gen AI. I did it before Christmas. I went onto a photographic site and put together a Christmas card. I'm a chairman of Radio Cracker in Ballymena. It's a charity radio station. I thought I'll go in and put together a Christmas card and just put studio decorated with items for Christmas. And it was actually quite reasonable. It was a little bit naff, but it was all right. How many of you got AI policies in your organisation? That's more telling. Because you'll find that about 14% of even the newer businesses are now grasping the fact they need an AI policy, and I'll come back to that at the end. This is me. I do a lot of work that's in yellow, which is my current stuff, and the stuff in white is the stuff I have been working at. I'm interested on this one here. I'm the non-exec director of digital for FCDO Services Foreign Office, UK, 148 sites across the world, dealing with the National Authority for Counter Eavesdropping and basically moving 2 million tons of diplomatic bag around the world every year in flights and trucks and you name it, 400 armoured vehicles across the world. So that's the sort of stuff that FCDO Services, £260 million a year trading fund does. And obviously protecting that and making sure that's secure is right at the top of the priority list. And every single organisation I deal with has cybersecurity as a red risk. That's not bad. People look at that and go, that's bad, but actually it's focusing on the stuff that really matters. Housing Association, we set this thing up in Northern Ireland. And the interesting one, I was talking earlier this week, I was at a council meeting in Norwich, and we had a massive spike of Win7 usage in October time last year, and then it trailed off and they were monitoring it. And it's interesting, the IT people were really worried about the use of Win7 in operating system terms by students. There's two types of access to the network in a university. It's the academics themselves and then the students, the great unwashed population of the university. Well, some of the academics are unwashed as well, but no, I'll not go there. But actually, I was more worried and they're more concerned about the background noise of Win7 and is there something in there that's already infiltrated the system and is exploiting the fact that Win7 is insecure in terms of the usage by the academics primarily, but also some of the students. And then talking about whether we should pay for students who can't afford to have new laptops to actually have more modern laptops to provide that sort of level of defense. But anyway, I do a load of stuff. I was invited by NAR to come here and said, what do you want to talk about? And I said, well, like Encanto, the Disney movie, let's not talk about Bruno. Well, let's not talk about AI. Let's have a go because everybody's talking about it. And what's all the hype about? Well, I'm teaching to suck eggs probably. It's got good elements in it, efficiency and productivity. I was with Salesforce about 3 weeks ago in London. And their Einstein engine behind the scenes is absolutely magic, fantastic. And it's actually been designed to keep the data that empowers you as a business behind the wall and only going outside to large language models whenever you need to. So efficiency and productivity. Targeting, you wouldn't believe, you probably do, the capability in the Salesforce engine to target you with emails that are really specific when the sales person puts a prompt into their marketing messages. It's just stunning to see how they're doing a bit of social engineering, knowing you as a customer, and putting that into the sort of email. So large language models, we've heard about those. That's the sort of large area. There's a lot of issue around exploitation of large language models. They need to be trained. And if you get into a large language model early on, you can actually divert some of the training. But anyway, large language models give you a wealth of information that you can exploit. Creativity amplification, these are all new buzzwords, aren't they? Creativity amplification, you can make a person who is really creative and talented, even more talented by adding the capabilities of AI to that. Adaptive learning and personalization, really strong capabilities for the use of AI. But should we be worried? I think most people are concerned, but should we be worried? Well, this was an article from a Forrester report. Generative AI will not just disrupt, it will shatter markets, industries, and economies in waves over the next 10 to 15 years. On Monday, I was discussing it with a really leading biochemist from Liverpool University. And she was saying that her whole profession is being decimated now with AI because it can do it faster than individuals coming through biochemistry degrees. And that is a disruptive element where she's seeing right at the top end of the knowledge tree, people being displaced by that. And I can go on and talk about it, but it's actually, it creates what they call a knowledge activation loop, where basically knowledge becomes zero cost. You can go out and look and get stuff across the world that you previously wouldn't have been able to. You could probably do a Google search, but this stuff really, in terms of the prompts, is excellent. So should we be worried? There's all sorts of figures out there. This one comes from Deloitte report. 91% of all cyber attacks begins with a phishing email. So yeah, there's fear, uncertainty and doubt around everything, but actually most of the traffic, most of the actual attacks are still based on email penetration in terms of getting into businesses. Anything that makes phishing more effective needs to be at the top of our concern list, and we'll look at it. New open AI tools that enable the attacker to generate extra capability in their phishing emails is where the direction of travel is going. Let's talk about illegal LLMs, for instance. Wolf GPT, Fraud Board, Abad, Evil GPT. There's some really great names here, aren't there? Evil GPT and Worm GPT. Right? These are the sorts of things that you're facing at the moment out there in the illegal world. You've probably not come across them, but the people who are nasty out there who want to exploit it are using these types of tools to generate the types of attacks that we're now starting to see. You can't read this, but this is Worm GPT. And what are the best features to have on a worm malware? That's what you ask Worm GPT as a script kiddie in a loft somewhere in Paris. Oh, that was a story. I was in open banking. I did 3 years as the head of information security in open banking in London from 2016 to 2019. And our SOC manager was forever right in sort of danger because he was tending to cry wolf a bit. But he would rush out and he'd say, we're under attack. We've had this big attack over the weekend. And I went, what's big? Well, he said, we had 200 attempts by an IP address in Paris to try and get through our services. And I went, it's more likely to be a script kiddie because if it was 200,000 attempts, I'd be quite worried. But they weren't successful. But it was just interesting that people who have previously tried to get through our network are now being enabled by Worm GPT. And all of the answers, fileless execution, automated replication, permission elevation, all the stuff, sysadmin, permission elevation, etc., anti-detection is telling you how to do that sort of stuff in your email generation. Evil GPT, write a convincing email that can be used in a business email compromise attack. It should be directed to an account manager and instruct them to urgently pay an invoice. The email should appear to be from the business's CEO. And it writes this stuff for you. And you then have to just insert it. Now, it's not particularly great at the moment. And I'll tell you, the Salesforce stuff at the other side of it is even better than this, right? Because they can do it because they know you. But this is generic. And that's what's out there free of charge at the moment through Evil GPT. Artificial intelligence as a enabler of fraud. I am chairman of the Northern Ireland Fraud Forum. We set it up last year, 2022. It's one of the UK Fraud Forum groups. It's a not-for-profit. We don't charge anything. We just sort of set up masterclasses and an annual conference. And I'll tell you, at last year's annual conference, the biggest problem was deepfake and AI that was being discussed by all of the organisations, Consumer Council, UK Finance, the police. A lot of it was there. These are the sorts of things you're getting. I got one of these. It was hi Dad. My phone has been smashed. This is an unknown number to you, but actually it's my friends. I've borrowed it just to get in touch with you. The standard stuff. This is coming through regularly now. Scam emails, we've talked about those. I don't like the use of the word scam. They're criminals who are doing it. Scam sort of puts it into a victimless crime situation, whereas it's not victimless. SMS smishing, so phishing, the smishing side. Spear phishing. whaling, and spiritual. That's the one that is really, really good. And the crypto giveaway scams. You come across these ones. I signed up last year just out of interest. I got this call from a guy telling me, saying, and then an email followed up. We're really interested because we can make you lots of money. Short and quick orders. And I thought, let's go and see what this is like. So I put $250 into their account. We had a big long telephone call for an hour. He then profiled me in terms of turning around and saying, what you like, how much money you've got, how you've got a mortgage, all the rest of it. So he got all my details. Not that I gave him the accurate ones. And then he said, let's try it out. If you put $250, let's just start it small. We'll put $250 into the account, and then I'll show you how to do it with trading. It's just like I've come across the old trading scams where you've got a dashboard with share prices and everything like that. We can do this because we're in the loop earlier than most other banks and stuff like that. And we can predict very accurately how the crypto market is moving across all the cryptos. And within a few minutes, he convinced me that he could make me lots of money because he doubled the $250 to $500 by just putting $50 bets on cryptocurrencies that were likely to go up and cryptocurrencies that were likely to go down. And his intention was to get me to put $2,000 or $20,000 into the crypto account so that I could make lots and lots of money very, very quickly. It's all about greed. And I then turned around and said, well, that's okay. I've got $500 now in my account. Before I put any more money in, because I'm obviously willing to do that, but I want to see how I get my money out so I can spend it, because if I want to buy a car or do anything like that, I'd like to be able to get access to it. So I said, well, you just click on the button on the top right-hand corner and go and ask for the money to be transferred into whichever crypto wallet you've got. Now, I didn't have a crypto wallet at the time, so I had to go and get a Coinbase crypto wallet, which I did. And I said to him, right, I've got my Coinbase crypto wallet. I want to show me that I can take $250 out. So it was a zero sum for him. So he then transferred it out, or it transferred electronically. I'm sure he pushed a button or someone to authorize it. But so it sits. This morning, I think it was $274. I just checked the wallet. I don't have anything in it, but personally. But I spent 3 weeks blocking calls from them, consistently targeting me to try and put the $20,000 back into the account. Because why aren't you talking to us? You're insulting us. We're here to help you. All that sort of stuff. So this stuff down here, targeting high-end users or even lower, because of greed, is being now used with AI to further target you from a social engineering perspective. I've just used that one because it's an example. Now I'm not a high net worth individual, but $250 was okay. It's fun money, and I got it back. Well, I haven't had it out of the crypto account yet, so I haven't really got it out. But it's sitting in a Coinbase wallet, which could descend to zero tomorrow, I suppose, if the crypto goes down through the floor again. But threats are evolving constantly. Obviously, we know that phishing is the most prevalent attack vector. About 65 to 67, anywhere in the 60% are actually successful in terms of the penetration, starting with the click. Certainly, AI is improving hacker productivity. Interestingly enough, I used to go out and push us out just a general email to everybody. 10,000 would go out, they'd be stopped by spam filters and everything like that. Now, it's one-to-one rather than one-to-many. Profiling you. My son is in digital marketing, and he's in paid search. I tell him the stuff he knows about customers would blow you over in terms of when they spend money with Google during the day to target you in terms of what might be interesting to you, and also profiling you as an individual to allow them to know what you're interested in. His rationale is we give a better service, so you as a customer get a better service from us, and we're not barraging you with stuff that's irrelevant. And I try and tell that to my wife who uses one of my accounts, and I keep getting stuff about shoes. That's why I work, by the way. This is a really sexist joke, so not politically correct. Data security. There's now stuff being worked on to try and penetrate even the data security that we're doing. And prompt injection, for those of you who haven't used AI before, you write a prompt, which is that question. And if you can get in the loop of that prompt, you can actually alter what the AI engine and the large language model is doing. There's sort of apps that sit in front of the large language model processing, and it's almost like man in the middle attack. You can get in and you can put a prompt injection in, and that will alter the response for whatever reason the individual malevolent actor wants to do. And then there's a thing called data poisoning. So there's a whole series of new terminologies coming through in the AI world, but that's actually poisoning the actual large language model that you're using. So if you're into using a large language model and you put a lot of troll data in there, you will actually then alter the output that the AI engine is providing you with. So are there any new threats out there? I've just aligned it. I don't want to scare you with fear, uncertainty, and doubt, all right? So there are stuff, we've seen a lot of this before, it's just now targeted using modern technology. But there is deep fake technology. So I thought I would run you a couple of these. This is the dreaded Jennifer.
Hi, it's me, Jennifer Lopez, Chief Celebration Officer of Virgin Voyages, here to invite you to celebrate. So come.
Celebrate your anniversary, your birthday, or just generally be fabulous.
Really, Kyle?
It's good, right?
Gen AI is supposed to be inviting people to Virgin Voyages, not doing whatever that was. You know, just give me that.
As I would say, why not celebrate on an award-winning voyage with Michelin stars, chef-curated menus, world-class destinations, award-winning
Boring. Right in too.
I can't watch this. Give it to me. There's no kids here. That's all you need to know.
Oh, can I live there?
Gem AI. Invite your crew to voyage. Create your custom invite at virginvoyages.com.
It's not just a yacht, it's a super yacht.
Did you enjoy that? Did you see the brand positioning as well throughout that? That's a marketing video, by the way. And I thought it was actually stunning in terms of where Virgin are going in terms of catching that audience out there. And obviously they've paid there's a lot of money to get involved in it. But
What did they?
well, one quick question then. And I'll talk about it in a second, whether in fact it is Jennifer Lopez or not. But here's another one, which I thought would be.
Stand before you, not as an expert, but as a concerned citizen. One of the 400,000 people who marched in the streets of New York on Sunday, and the millions of others around the world who want to solve our climate crisis.
As an actor, I pretend for a living. I play fictitious characters, often solving fictitious problems.
I believe that mankind has looked at climate change in that same way, as if it were fiction.
We're pretending that climate change wasn't real. We somehow make it go away. But I think we all know better than that now.
There you go. How about that then? And that fantastic in terms of the voice activation. It was. I saw one of these about a year ago, 18 months ago, from a guy over in Germany who was doing some research on Microsoft, and the codecs between the voice activation in real time were really stunning. The problem set was the video codecs hadn't caught up with it, and therefore there was almost a subliminal, this is not real, it's a dubbed type action. The stuff nowadays is not dubbed, and the feel is very, very authentic. And it's so authentic that over the last weekend, a Hong Kong trader parted with 200 million Hong Kong dollars because he thought he was having a video conference meeting with his CFO in London, who had authorized him, along with a lot of others around the table that were all real-time deep faked, to send out 200 million Hong Kong dollars into various accounts from Hong Kong, and that's $25 million in the US. And that was a deep fake chief financial officer interview. He wasn't the CFO, he thought he was talking to them and interacting with the CFO. And a friend of mine's out there at the moment in Hong Kong, helping with the investigation, trying to recover some of the money. But the likelihood is they get about 2% of it back once they've tracked it down to various places and asset recovery. But so yes. Now, question in my mind, because I've done a few things on zero trust. We think about zero trust technically. So we think about microservices and zero trust and token exchange, all the technical stuff. between that. But we really haven't graphed yet zero trust in processes. We sort of used to, and I'm chairman of this charity, and we can't spend a penny without, we tend to be check-based at the moment. We're trying, because we're with AIB and charities, and sorry, I'm not being very kind to AIB, I am actually a personal customer of them, but they won't allow charities in certain instances to do cards. So we have checks, so you have to double sign checks, which is actually zero trust in a process-based environment. We're moving to Danska, who do give you cards and allow you to do online, so we just have to be careful there that we make sure that we have that zero trust in the processes we involve there. There's obviously no zero trust involved in this. It was all based on the trust, the vertical trust from CFO down to financial manager in Hong Kong. So we have to be mindful of that. It's not just a technical problem with AI, it's also a process problem. So towards the end of this presentation, do you have an AI policy in place across your organisation? Do your board and your chief executives, you don't have to take them down a technical route, but do they understand when it can be used and when it can't be used? A couple of days ago, I saw the Department of Works and Pensions, which is the equivalent of the Department of Social Protection here, basically banned their employees from using GenAI. Now that is a knee-jerk reaction, probably warranted at the moment until the maturity of it all gets through. But they are passionately concerned about data protection and the loss of personal data out into the large language model open environment. And that's legitimate, because you don't know what, if you're releasing stuff and you're trying to train an AI engine and it then goes out into the open, it goes effectively onto the internet. AI used by employees within your organizations. Do you know what they're doing in terms of accessing ChatGPT? You know, my daughter is doing a BTEC in childcare, quite a long, lengthy one, and she's now using ChatGPT to help her put together some of the written material she has to do, and then she has to put her own personal view on the top of it. That's fine for her because she's outside a firewall, but do your AI employees know what the rules are the rules about using AI? This one is really scary. Do you have know your customer or know your business, know your supplier, KYB, KYS Institute for the use of AI in their business, because supply chain attacks are becoming predominant in terms of getting into the larger corporate organizations. Have you thought about copyright concerns, about the release of your internal material out into a large language model, which will then be spread across the internet? So the back door for copyright infringement is sat there. You know, the actors in Hollywood went on strike for a legitimate concern at their work. You've just seen it with the two videos there could be dubbed. And a lot of stuff now, Bruce Willis and stuff like that, is being done where deep fakes are being used productively in the entertainment business. Have you got accuracy in the large language model? Some of them are really quite inaccurate at the moment, and I would recommend employing a person in the loop in every situation where you're using AI at the moment to generate product outside. And the other one, obviously, is confidentiality, ethical use, and disclosure. Can you disclose to most of them now? Have you seen the stuff about Meta recently? And it's horrendous that Meta are turning around and saying, excuse me, we're not going to take an ethical view on whether our product can be used illegally. No, what we will do is we'll put a little banner on it that says this is generated by AI. How many people have noticed that? So I think the board there, their oversight boards, have advocated their responsibility to ensure that the customer is protected. So takeaways. I hope I'm on time. Yes, well, a couple of minutes left for questions. Awareness is key. Always. This is not rocket science. I'm not a rocket scientist. But be alert and train staff. Good cyber hygiene is essential. But that's just AI. That's not anything to do with AI. That's just common sense. Phishing is still the main avenue of attack. So you hear all this stuff, you see the deep fakes, you're hopefully not about to lose 25 million to a deep fake video because you're in a financial supply chain. But you know, you've got to look at phishing as a real problem still as a front door. Have you got an enterprise security-wide approach that includes now AI, or is starting to think about it. It doesn't have to be in place exactly at this moment, but over the next 12 months, you'll see much more of this stuff gathering momentum. So you need to be generating, because it takes, in public sector, my experience, it takes 3 to 6 months to get the policies approved anyway. So you have to be thinking now towards the end of 2024. Employ best of breed security tools. I've come across so many organizations that have got, they're spending a fortune on security tools that aren't best of breed, but they haven't put together an enterprise strategy about how and what is the best set of, and to reduce the cost. There's an interesting one I watched last night, which I've sent over to a friend of mine, on cloud usage, and a very persuasive individual who was coming and turning around saying, do you know the true value and cost of cloud? Well, actually, employing best of breed security tools can be costly, so you've got to manage what is needed in your budget. Keep up to date with personal training, the landscape visible, and you need to be on top of it because it will run away with you if you're not careful. And also think about Gen AI. I've tried to sort of the typical fun, sort of appeal uncertainty down and show you what the capability of Gen AI is, but actually it's good as well. So it's not as if this is bad. It's, we're always in that catch-up game, or maybe not in some cases, but we're always in this sort of, it comes along, we have to consider it, we use it, we get exploit the benefit, and then we move on. So those are sort of key takeaways that I would say about Gen AI. You don't have to worry too much about it at this moment in time, but it is, except for maybe phishing, where it's becoming much more prevalent and very focused in terms of spear phishing attacks with you as an individual. I think the rest of it is all common sense. And don't talk to my wife because she says I have common sense. But that's just a husband-wife conversation. But that's me. I've got a phone number down there if you want to get in touch. I'm generally a sort of a master of all sorts of things that I'm doing at the moment, and I've just taken an interest over the last year with AI and Gen AI because it's just become so prevalent out in the blogosphere in terms of everybody's talking about Bruno in terms of Gen AI. So thank you very much indeed.
Hi everyone, great to see you here. I'm Gavin Roberts, CTO at Topsec. Today, I just, as Joe and Niall mentioned earlier, I wanted to kind of show you 3 threats that we very much saw on the rise last year, how they actually occur, and the 3 of them all have a very similar tactic, and how our Inbox Protect that we launched last year is directly related to this. It can be used in a very good way to tackle this particular threat. So these are OneDrive links and QR codes. So last year we saw a particular OneDrive, but it could be any share platform. We saw this happen with links that were safe when they were arriving, but they became dangerous after. Same with QR codes. So all 3 of these use the tactic that they delivered. There's nothing wrong when they're delivered. There's no issue. There's nothing found in any scans. And then after the fact, they become dangerous. So when this happens, an email arrives with a OneDrive link. Let's use this as an example. The email goes through the filtering scans. The Microsoft reputation is clean. There's no malicious content found. Passes all the checks, and then it ends up in the mailbox. Once it's there, at some point after it's arrived, the URL could lead to somewhere that has a redirect that leads to somewhere different, or content in a OneDrive folder could change, become dangerous, and at that point then there's actually a bad email sitting in the inbox, and it's gone through all the scanning. So with Inbox Protect, when the mail arrives, we do a real-time scan, and we look at QR codes, we read where they're going to, we look at the URLs. As I mentioned there, we look at OneDrive links. We take an actual record of those links as they're passing through with Inbox Protect. Also, any mails that pass through a gateway, we take a record of any URLs we see there as well. Scan them when they arrive, then we also rescan them again and again and again over a 5-day window. So with Inbox Protect, if any of these arrive and then we do a rescan and we find an issue, or if we get an intelligence update, Inbox Protect can reach into the inbox, delete the mail. So it retrospectively deals with threats. With redirects, we also look at, I think it's 10 redirects now. So any of these URLs, if they bounce on, we look at the reputation and we look at the actual page of all the redirects. So then when we do a rescan, if those redirects have changed, we're scanning all those redirects. So there's quite a lot going on, not just when the mail actually arrives, but after the fact as well. The intelligence sources that we use with Inbox Protect, we've got our own in-house team and we've a malicious list that we maintain. We've got threat partners that send us updates by the minute. And obviously, if any of our customers report something to our support team, they can also interact with this and update the actual list. So at any time, if our malicious list has something in it that matches with something that's in an inbox, Inbox Protect will go in and delete it straight away. In addition to that, something that we've been working on, what we've just released now, we've got a search and delete option in there. So from our point of view and from the admin's point of view, we can literally search by phrase or attachment or a subject line, and we can find all of the mails inside your tenants that match the criteria and either just choose individual mails and delete the mail, or you can choose to select all and delete all and just remove a threat from the tenant entirely. We can also do that as well on our side, so we can search your tenant for you and look to see if there's something we know that we think should be removed. So it's a pretty powerful tool, and it's added a lot to our gateway. Running side by side as a hybrid with our gateway, it adds a lot of power that we didn't have before. Additionally, this, it adds internal mail scanning, which the gateway wouldn't have traditionally had. So by having Inbox Protect running side by side with the gateway, all of your internal mail is covered, as well as all your external mail. Just a list of some additional things. With Inbox Protect, it adds our attachments scanning to internal mail, A/B scanning. It can URL rewrite internal mail as well. Looks at redirects. It adds our rules and policies to your internal mail. What we tend to find is when we add a customer to Inbox Protect, is that the rules that they have for the internal mail, they want to be slightly different to the rules on the external mail. It doesn't operate quite the same. There's a lot of things internally that might look kind of spammy as well, but they're not. They're actually legitimate. And if they were coming from external sources, it would be obvious that they're not. So we kind of go through a process when we set this up of tailoring it to you and making sure it meets what you're expecting internally. It's really simple to set up. It connects to the 365 tenant. It requires an authorization, which is a click and a login and another click. That's it. It's set up. It can be set up in 5 minutes, and then it's really easy to do. And then lastly, as I mentioned there, the search and delete function, which is just becoming available. Is there any questions that you have on that? Does that make sense? Good.
How just explain it how it's set up. Obviously, it's MX record of the gateway when we do that way. But
yeah, so it doesn't need any MX record change at all. It literally we ask for the tenant ID. We add the tenant ID to your existing account. That presents then a button within your portal that you can click. Once it's clicked, it'll bring you to a Microsoft page to log in, and you click authorize. And from that moment, it's up and running, and it's looking at all the mails across all inboxes through the tenant. Sorry? It's just for 365, yeah. But it's pretty powerful, and the search and delete tool is it's a really good feature. But with regards to the 3 threats earlier, the search and delete tool can be used to identify those mails if we know based on intelligence that there's something there, or if there's an identifiable link within one of those 3 types of threats. So let's say a OneDrive link is sent, it's safe when it arrives. It then an hour later becomes dangerous, and either we're scanning and we find something, or we're updated through our threat partners, or our support team receive a report of the link. Once we've added that in, this will just go and grab those mails from anywhere that they exist and it'll delete them.
Can you tell if the link has been clicked on by an end user within the email?
We can't, no. We can't tell whether the link has been clicked, but we can tell if the link's been clicked when we're scanning, say if it's a QR code, we follow the QR codes, we go as far as the OneDrive, but we don't see the content in the OneDrive, because that's outside of our system, but no, we can't tell if it's actually been clicked.
Sorry, did you say it checks for a period of 5 days?
It does a rescan repeatedly for a 5-day window for every URL we collect. So it's like an ongoing scan that's always happening. Every URL that comes into our platform, it'll go into that cycle and it'll rescan for 5 days. And if over that 5 days it finds anything, it'll act upon it. And then after 5 days,
not malicious.
Yeah.
Malicious.
And we did a lot of testing around that when we first launched this, and we found that 5 days was kind of the right space. That was the window where if we were going to find something, we find it there, yeah.
Is there a separate portal for this?
No, it's all integrated into the same place as the gateway. So with this activated, anything that this catches, you'll see in the exact same format, the exact same place, and just have a little icon on the side to say it was inbox with 10. So there's no real training required. There are a couple of extra windows, the search and delete being one, and then we have a specific window that just identifies mails that were deleted because of the URLs, not mails that were quarantined for any good reason. But yeah, I mean, it's very, very much exactly the same as the gateway. So it's very simple.